Thank you so much for your patience. And as I said in the email, that is the first time I have ever had to abandon ship in that way. And I think, in a way, for it to happen in a program launch about launching, I think is just, it's almost like the universe is like, use this as a teaching moment. So yeah, launch things like that do happen. And the thing is that there is always a way to solve it. Like there's always something you can do to sort it out. And I think sometimes one of the things that stops us launching is we're worried about stuff like that happening. Like I know for me, like the idea a few years ago, the idea of having to abandon a live, but like and abandon like literally like a thing that people had signed up to because my laptop broke, like that would I would literally be like, well, I'm not doing it. Absolutely not. It's not worth it. But it's fine. Like it's obviously it's not ideal at all, but there's always a solution. And also everyone's been so lovely. And also unexpected twist two very sneaky people, managed to find the link and join Luminous Launching already. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is like things like this can happen and you can still have an amazing launch. We don't teach like launch perfection over here. It's not a thing. It does like you will never have a launch where everything goes to plan, but there's always a way around it. And I think when you can kind of let go of that perfectionism a little bit, it really helps. So that that sort of tangent to say, welcome back again. Oh, Danny, I'm glad. Yeah, I actually had a few messages from people saying that they couldn't make it earlier and now can. So that's the thing, there's always pros and cons to all of these things. But if you were stuck waiting for me earlier, I do apologize. It definitely that 15 minutes where I was trying to get back on were not my favorite 15 minutes, I have to say. But we're here now. So, welcome again to Launchbeam. I am so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for coming back. Thank you so much for watching on the replay. And I can't wait to share this new training with you. I said this earlier, but this is the first time I've run this training in this form, so I can't wait to see what you think of it. I can't wait to hear all of your questions. I am going to do a Q&A at the end as well. And of course, I'm also going to be sharing about Luminous launching at the end of this as well. But we've got lots of fun to get going with before that. So I'm going to grab my slides and then we can get going and have a lovely time. Okay. So I am screen sharing. Hopefully you can see that. Also, can I just say before we get started, I don't want you to think badly of butter. I was thinking about this. I was like, oh no, I love butter. I don't want people to think it was butter's fault. I genuinely think it was my laptop. But then I was like, I'm just going to do Zoom because just in case. But normally butter is great. So yeah, just wanted to say that. Justice for butter, exactly. I love butter normally. It's never steered me wrong in that way before. So yeah, just for the record, butter is great, but here we are on Zoom and we can get started. Yeah, Anna says you've had good experiences with butter as well. Yeah, exactly. No harm done. The main lesson is I need to get some more RAM or something on my laptop. I think that's the issue. Anyway, okay. Oh, Jasmine, you said you can't see any messages or the chat. I can see that. I can see your chat. So I don't know why it's not showing for you. Oh, it could be that if you click the like the host and panelists. Oh, okay, it's coming up. So maybe if anyone else can't see the chat, oh yeah, okay, you need to change your settings potentially. Or maybe it's that you just need to put a little hello in the chat and then it'll pop up for you. But yeah, I think hopefully. Also, you can see there's like a blue tick box and it says hosts and panelists. If you change that to everyone, then you will get. Oh, I see. Okay, some people have been saying that. That's why. Sorry, just catching up. Yeah, so I can see some of these and some people can see everything. So if your blue box above the chat box is saying hosts and panelists, just change it to everyone, and then everyone will be able to see your messages. Right, sorry, I got there backwards and later than everyone else, but I got there in the end. Okay, so there's also a Q&A function as well in along the bottom bar, you'll see a Q&A. If you've got questions as you go along, if you want to put them in there, that's totally fine. I can get to them at the end, or you can pop them in the chat as well. Yeah, like if you put them in the Q&A, I'll be able to see it easier, but that's by the by. Okay, so let's get cracking. What kind of launcher are you? This is about as far as I got before. So here we go. We can kick off properly. Let me know in the chat which kind of launcher you are. So are you the Plateaued Pro? The Plateaued Pro is someone who is absolutely maxed out with all of the work that you've got to get done. You feel like, oh yeah, I should probably do launching, probably would be an easier way for me to sell. It also probably would help me start doing some more scalable offers. But the idea of like fitting it in, it's just like, well, how can I fit that in? So a bit of overwhelm there potentially. So that's the Plateaued Pro. The second one is the flopped launcher, which is, I mean, maybe does what it says on the tin. If you have tried launching before and you have maybe had a bit of a flop, maybe you put loads of effort in and like the reward just didn't feel worth it. Or maybe you were just like met with absolute crickets. So that is the flopped launcher. The next one is one that I definitely used to resonate with, the visibility avoider. So the idea of launching is just like, oh, like you really want to do it. You're curious. You're thinking like, I think this would be really, really good for me. Ellie said visibility avoider for life. Yeah, but the idea of it feels really scary and a lot and visible and lots of selling. So let me know if that's you. And then finally, the creative adventurer. So maybe you've got a few launches under your belt. Maybe you have been finding launching a tiny bit harder recently. Like maybe you have had some launches that have gone really well, but actually recently you found they're like a little bit slower and it's harder for them to pick up steam. And you want to like add some more excitement and creativity and like get them converting better. So that is our 4 different types. I can see people in the chat are sharing what they are. So Amber says combo of Plateau Pro and Flop Launcher. Yeah, you can absolutely be a combo of some of these, by the way, as well. Like that is really, really common. Yeah, Ellie says visibility avoider. Danny says avoider. Saskia is a combo of flopper and avoider. It's really funny with the second part of the words. Yeah. Flopper and avoider, and Jasmine said flopped and adventurer. Yeah, and that's the thing, like we can absolutely have had really good launches and then have launches that flopped. Like I've had launches that have flopped literally that I've spoken about in the last like 6 months. You know, it is always it's a constant experiment, and you know, I think once we take that idea of a launch flopping off the pedestal and realize that it's okay, it can all be a big experiment. And also when we make it a bit easier on ourselves as well, because then it's not so much of a sort of wrench if it does flop, then yeah, it just makes everything feel a bit better. Anna says plateau and visibility avoider. Okay, so we've got some combos. I love that. Brilliant. Okay, so, oh, I forgot that I'm not on, I need to scroll down, not click. We're getting there, pals, we're getting there. So I think lots of you already know me because you're here, but if you haven't met me before, I am Rachel. I would say I am a past visibility avoider turned launch strategist. So I would say now, launching actually is where I feel the most creative and joyful, apart from when tech issues happen. Wasn't necessarily that joyful earlier. I think it's one of the most fun things you can do in your business. I genuinely feel like I kind of come alive in my work when I'm launching, but it very much was not always like that. Like I tell this story quite a lot, but there was a time Back when I've had a few different businesses, been in the online space for quite a while. I started out as a wedding stylist. So in my wedding styling business, I literally like there was a time when I needed to record a video for something, and my husband Jake, who's an actor, had to literally hold my hand through the whole experience and like coach me in between each line. I was only doing a voiceover, and I cried in between pretty much every sentence. And I remember saying, I will never be good at this. I will never be able to show up and be confident. Like, I will never be able to do it. And I think if I'd have told that version of me, like, for example, what happened today, I think I would have absolutely like imploded. But it just goes to show that you, even if you do have that sort of visibility fear, it does get easier. I definitely still get nervous about stuff, but it gets so much easier. And I think that that is like hopefully a bit of a comfort that sometimes if you feel like, oh, launching could just never be for me because XYZ, there's always ways to shift those things. So yeah, I just wanted to share that for the visibility avoiders in the house. So too many launches look a bit like this, and let me know, particularly flopped launcher pals, let me know if your launches looked a little bit like this before. So maybe you planned and prepped the offer behind the scenes, quietly, doing your thing, prep, loads. And you sort of did, because you're so busy doing that, you kind of forget to like really share anything. So you're busying around, you're running around, you're getting everything prepped behind the scenes, and then launch day happens, you hit post, and then you're like, la la la, where are my sales? Hello, are you coming? And then the sales don't necessarily come in straight away. And then because it's a bit quiet, you lose all momentum and you think, oh, everyone's sick of me. Maybe you show up a little bit more than that. Maybe maybe you do a few days of posts and you think, oh no, that nothing's happening. And now everyone hates me because I'm talking about it too much. And you lose steam and you stop. Or maybe you show up, more than this. And then you're like halfway through, you think nothing's happening. I'm going to give up. And then we never see the end result. So that's the kind of launch that I see happen all the time. And what happens then is you end up with a bit of a tumbleweed situation. There's other things that contribute to this tumbleweed situation, which I'm going to go on to in a minute. But what we really want are launches that look a little bit like this. Now, I shared this image on Threads the other day and on my stories, and I was like, I kind of meant this to be like a cute, kind of like meme moment. And is it a bit creepy? I don't know. Jury's out. It might be a bit creepy. But what I'm going for is, and yeah, Abby said, so obsessed with the branding. I think it's creepy cute. Yes, Saskia says, I'm hearing that whistle music when I see the tumbleweed. Woo. Yeah, I don't know if that was the rendition you were looking for, Saskia, but there we go. Yeah, the branding, have to give a shout out to Isa from Studio Koya, who has done all of my lovely branding for Luminous Launching. She has just absolutely smashed it. And yeah, exactly. Meg said, joining your cult, that's all. Yeah, that's what I'm going for with this. Basically, a big part of, to give you some behind the scenes of the branding for Luminous Launching, the reason why I've gone with this sort of like UFO vibe is I want you to imagine your launch is like a UFO hovering over Earth, and you are basically sending out this beam of light and you are attracting your ideal clients in with that beam. And what we want to be doing with our beam, and obviously clue is in the title, that's our launch system framework. We are basically, I mean, Meg's put it perfectly, we're getting people to join our cult. But we are basically attracting the right people in for us. And so much of that is done outside of your active sales time. So what today is all about is crafting your launch beam that basically is like this beacon for your ideal customers to firstly see it. That's step one, isn't it? Secondly, understand that they want what you're offering. And thirdly, decide to take action. They want to be inspired to take action. So that's what our launch beam is about. jury's still out if this is creepy cute, just creepy. I think it's a bit of a mix of both, but it does what I want it to do. So, I wanted to also tell you a little bit more about my launch story. So, I've already said I was, visibility avoider, and I went from after I was doing wedding styling. I went into creative marketing, basically. A lot of people knew me for Pinterest marketing. That was one of my big sort of pillars of my business before I did my recent pivot. And I had such an amazing journey with launching those kind of offers. So one of the biggest offers I had was my Pinterest marketing course, but I also had courses about like video marketing. I had one called Be the Art Director of Your Own Brand. I launched all sorts of different things like workshops, smaller things, one-to-one. I basically built launching as like my main way of selling. Like I really, after doing my first course launch, I thought, actually, I just love this way of selling. I think it gives you such a focus and it means that you can show up with such intention in a short amount of time and really just like create an event that people love to be part of. So, to share a little bit about my first course launch, I at the time had about I think like 100 people on my email list. I started off that launch with about 100 people on my email list. 1,500 Instagram followers, so not a big audience at all. Obviously, like there were people there, but yeah, not like a huge audience at all. And my goal for that launch was 10 people. I was like, if I can just get 10, I'd be so happy with 10. I got 53 and I made 17K. And at the time, I was literally like, what? Like it, when I say it changed my business forever, it really did. And not just because of that launch, but also because I was like, okay, this is a great way of selling. And I basically went on to having, like I think I launched that program between 8 and 10 times. I never had like a less than five-figure launch for that program. And it also, aside from, I've just realized on the side here, I've got my little lights and I've just put life. What I mean by life is that launching can actually like change your life so many ways as well as your business because I was able to scale away from one-to-one. Yeah, exactly. At least just put life with two smileys. I think it was there as like a sort of reminder for me, and now I'm like, it's it's quite weird out of context. But yeah, like there are things in my life that changed. Like if it wasn't for launching, I wouldn't live where I want to live. I wouldn't have the clients that I have. I wouldn't have the recurring revenue that I have, like monthly recurring revenue. I have had incredible opportunities through the visibility that launching has given me. Like I've spoken for Pinterest, I've worked with Adobe, I've worked with Meta, and all of these things have come my way because I have been more visible with launching. And also, I have built credibility through that visibility. So obviously sales are one part of launching, but there are so many other things that can happen as part of that. So also to share a little bit about my clients as well. I've got clients who have sold out their mentoring cohorts. I've got a lovely client, Sarah, who got her Kickstarter 125% funded. And then she also launched a group program off like through one of the rewards and managed to get like 22 people in that. I've got clients who've been having their best years ever. Like people who did the beta round of Luminous launching last time, who had like 20K plus first launches. People are fully booking one-to-one, like selling out their offers and also bringing in, extra recurring revenue to offers that they've already got. And I've also got clients who are launching things like podcasts. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a paid offer that you're launching. You can apply launching to so many different things. So, I mean, I've sort of said some of this already, but again, sales, we often focus on the sales, and obviously launching is an amazing way to get sales. But I think what we can also look at is all the other stuff that it does for us and how it builds our business as a whole. And I think when you can focus on those things, it takes the pressure off the sales because you actually realize that every launch is compounding on the next one. So you're increasing your word of mouth. You're getting more sales for future launches. You are building your authority, your momentum, your trust. You're getting collaborations, becoming top of mind, people coming to you for podcast features. Also, launching sells your whole offer ecosystem. So often I've been in a launch and someone will say, "Oh, actually, that's not quite right for me, but have you got this?" And you can sell your all of your other offers as well. As I said, speaking opportunities, and you can impact more people. You can work with more people. You can reach more people and help them. So yeah, so many different things. And I think that when we take the sales off obviously sales are at the top. We want sales, of course we do. But when we realize all these other things that can happen as well, I think that it takes that launch like ag away, to give it its official term. Okay, so I wanted to talk about why launches flop because something that I have noticed with like all of my clients that I've worked with, also with myself and my own offers as well, like the launches that have gone well versus the launches that haven't gone so well, there are usually three reasons, and it's usually like one of these reasons. It could be all of them, but it's usually like one of these or like a combination. So the first thing is the offer. Now, I know that seems like a really obvious thing to say, but I think sometimes we get so sort of tunnel vision about our own offers that we forget to look there first. And something, especially now, especially here in 2025, what like one of the biggest things is that people are overwhelmed, oversaturated. They are not signing up for things just for the sake of it. They are signing up for things that they either really, really want or really, really need, and things that they need right now. So even if your offer is a nice to have, not a need, there are so many ways of like positioning it so that it is more appealing. But often it's either the offer isn't in the right format, or it's not got the right positioning, or it's just not quite the right offer for people right now. So that is one big reason. Sometimes it's not the offer at all. Sometimes the offer is brilliant, but the messaging is off. So sometimes you've got an offer that you're like, no, I know people want this. I know people need it. I know it's amazing. I know it's in the format. People have asked me for this in some other way. Why isn't it selling? Now, if that's the case, it's either the messaging or your visibility. But in terms of messaging, your messaging is basically like, how are you explaining your offer? Like, how are you positioning it? How are you using your content, your sales page, like all of the words, all of the ways that you describe your offer? Are you positioning it in a way where people know the value and they know that they want it and they know that they want it now? And another thing that I notice that people often do is that they will show up over and over and over again, and they'll like show up a lot for their launch, but because they haven't got the different messaging angles in place, they often share like the same thing over and over again. So hands up, I've been guilty of this definitely. If you often will share like just the details or like who it's for, it's perfect for you if here's what's included, here's the things, and then you'll do that but lots of different ways. Often, if we're doing that and not focusing on all the other angles we can cover, then it's going to cause your launch to not go as well as you think, because there are different types of buyers that we want to speak to and different types of sales triggers that we want to light up in people. And if we're only sharing the same thing over and over again, it's very difficult to do that. So the third thing is the visibility side of it. So if your offer is right, if your messaging is right, the third piece of the puzzle is visibility. So maybe you've got the first two bang on and you just don't have the visibility there. And you're like, people just aren't seeing it. They're either not seeing it or they're not excited. So we want to make sure people are seeing it, but we also want to make sure that we build hype. So that is why our pre-launch phases are so important, which I'm going to go into in a second. So to kind of expand on what I was saying before about my first launch as an example, and I've got loads of clients who've been in this position as well, you really don't need a huge audience to launch. You need an engaged audience who want what you're offering. And you want to be able to build that hype. You want to make sure that the offer is like something they want and need right now. You want to make sure the messaging is on point. You want to make sure that you're visible to these people and building that hype and building that pre-launch excitement. And then if you are doing those things, you can have a small audience and have an amazing launch. And I have seen people with much bigger audiences than me, for example, who have really struggled with their launches because they've had not one of those three things in place. And I've seen people on the opposite end who have like much smaller audiences, but their launches have gone really, really well because they've just launched the right thing in the right way. So I mentioned pre-launch and how much it matters. I would say that your pre-launch is like building a bonfire. So if you were to try and light a fire with like absolutely no foundation, no kindling, and I know this because I have tried to like set up a log burner before and I cannot do it. It's really hard. So if you're trying to do that in your launch, you're trying to launch without building this foundation, your launch is likely going to flop because there just isn't that excitement. There isn't the build of hype for people to get excited with you. So what we want to do, and you're seeing a little bit of a teaser of our Beam framework here. We want to build an audience of ideal people for what we want to sell them. We want to engage them in a conversation, and we want to light up their anticipation. We want them to be so excited about what you're doing before they can even get it that help like buying from you feels like a no-brainer. So it is about so much more than building hype for one launch. Like I said, every launch builds on the last. So it also indirectly builds your business in so many different ways. So an example of this is when I used to launch my Pinterest training, I had a free training to go with that called the Spark. I know some of you definitely came to the Spark when it was happening. I had people join my program after doing the Spark like 4 or 5 times. And I think that that really shows that you are, Abby said, yay, Spark. Yeah, I miss it. Yeah, it is one of those things where I think sometimes we do something once and we think, oh, that was a bit of a letdown. But actually, you've got like you're building this really strong foundation for your business as a whole. And if you know you've got those three things in place and you just need to like amplify it more, then you will be like building this momentum. And it's not always just about one launch. Okay, so it is time to go on to the Beam framework. So Beam, as I said, is about your launch UFO. You're flying around Earth, and you are sending out this launch beam. You are attracting your ideal customers into your launch. So what are we doing with the Beam framework? I'm just going to move the chat out of the way so that I can see. I'm not used to using a mouse, so there we go. Okay, build is our first stage of our Beam launch framework. So what we want to do first is we want to build your audience, also build your offer, and build your launch plan. So I'm going to go into each one of these in a bit more detail in a minute. Next, we have engage. Now, engage is where you nurture and engage your community. Then we have anticipate. So in the anticipate phase, we want to really, really grow that anticipation and excitement for your offer. We want to fuel that momentum. We basically want to get people, again, like I was saying, we want people to be so excited about joining that they like it doesn't even really matter when you open the doors because they're ready. They are literally like, will you just open up the doors already, please? And then we have market, which is your open cart phase. So notice how we have got the Beam framework, which is the full launch system, Only one part of it is where we are accepting sales. The rest of it is pre-launch and like your between launch time. So let me know in the chat if you have definitely been a little bit more focused on that sort of open cart phase before, or maybe you haven't, you feel like you haven't done enough pre-launch. I'd be interested to hear what people's pre-launch feels are. And then in the meantime, I will go on to the the different bits in more detail. I'm also, I don't know where I put my water. Is it over here? I'm gonna grab that. There we go. Okay. So our build phase, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each phase and I'm going to share a sort of like ideal time frame and also a launch boosting activity you can do in each phase. Now, I don't want to like overwhelm. There's so much you can do in each phase. And actually, Luminous launching, literally the whole thing goes through the Beam framework and we do like a whole module on each thing. But what we want to do is think like, okay, what does this look like in like a zoom out level? Like, how can I put this in my calendar? How can I plan this into my sort of diary and like my launch habits, I guess. So when I say these like ideal time frames, there isn't necessarily a one size fits all answer. These are like recommendations from me. And I've got an example at the end which will help if you're a little bit like, "Oh, these are a long time." Don't worry, I've got you covered. Um, so in the build phase, what we want to be doing is obviously planning and prepping our launch. So we want to be doing things like setting our launch goals. We want to plan, plan our content, plan our different phases. We'll put our Beam framework out and work out when we're going to do different things. And I would say this is basically like your in between launch time. So the build phase kind of can be however long you've got between each launch, really, because it really is that like behind the scenes setup, and it's also you growing your audience. Because I don't know if anyone has experienced this before, where you maybe have launched something and it went really well, and then you launched it again and it felt a little bit like, oh, everyone who was going to join has kind of already joined, so I need more people. That's what our build phase is for, because we want to keep getting fresh eyes and fresh energy into our audience, because otherwise we're like fishing from the same pond. Not that the people in our audience are fish, but that is a good analogy. So I would say a good time for your build phase, 30 days minimum usually is a good time. You don't want to be having launches like back to back to back to back, because it can get a lot and you're going to get burnt out. But for, a big launch, I think you want to have 30 days for your build phase. And a good build phase activity that you can do, and this is something that I have been doing recently, just building a daily habit of mentioning the topic that you're going to be launching around. So literally just getting your reps in. So like you can literally have tiny little mentions just on threads or stories. Actually, I would love to know if anyone has a launch coming up, or like you've got an idea of what you want to be launching. Let me know like what sort of what you're launching or what ideas you have in terms of like what your topic is, because I would love to like give some examples. But what I have been doing is like I literally put a reminder on my phone, to every day do a thread about launching. So because I have been known for like other different things, I wanted to make sure that people really, really started knowing me for launching. I wanted to make sure that I was really solidifying myself as a launch expert. So I had a reminder in my phone every single day to mention launching on threads, on stories, like just a tiny mention, and it was just building that sort of repetition. Dom says, I don't have a specific topic yet, but I'm aiming to launch a new website template soon. Yeah, so fun. So yeah, like I think in that case, just like especially when you know you're going to be doing something soon, another little mentioning thing you could do all the time is just like mention what you're building, just like little sneak peeks. So just you like every day something about the fact that you do templates, like so that people you become top of mind for like people to know that you do templates. I'm going to come up here. Uh, Oh, okay, amazing. Jasmine says, I'm launching a membership for women founders, which will be geared towards brand strategy, marketing, stories, and selling. Launching a 4-day free event last week of March to launch this membership. Exciting. So yeah, so you kind of are launching both because like it's all part of the same thing. So yeah, like taking those core elements of what you're talking about and mentioning them every day. So every day, can you get a little mention about brand strategy in there? Every day, can you like actually embody what you're teaching? So how can you show up on stories and sell every day so that people get into that, like they know that that's what you're there for? Oh, amazing. Jasmine said, yes, amazing. Honestly, the daily habit, this is a complete side tip, but I can't, it's been in my, you know, when you're like, I want to say it, it's like coming out, but I have to mention it. The Finch app. I know Dom is on the Finch app. If you're not on the Finch app, it is a habit tracker and I just absolutely love it. I was like, don't mention this, it's a complete tangent, but now I'm mentioning it. It is so good. Abby, I know you're on it as well. We are Finch pals. So the reason why I bring it up is because I had a habit in my Finch app. Basically, if you haven't seen it before, it's like a Tamagotchi but a habit tracker, and you get a little bird. It's just sensational. And I put things like this in my Finch app. So I had talk about launching on Threads in my Finch app. So yeah. Oh, Saskia, you're on there as well. Love it. Yeah, we can all be Finch pals. Anyway, I won't go too far into that because I will literally rabbit on about it for ages. But yeah, let's just come up to some of these other things that people are launching. So fun. I love hearing about these. Um, Amazing. So Jenny, you're launching a picture book. That's so cool. So yeah, like again, I know sometimes you can't necessarily like share all the behind the scenes with that kind of thing, but like little behind the scenes and the fact that you're doing it and the process, anything you can share is so good. Um, Oh yes, Danny, I remember you saying this on stories the other day. So yeah, yours is a guide for small businesses who just don't get social media. So yeah, I would love to see you just like mentioning little habits or little tips every day in some way, because that's going to pull those people into you as well. Um, Louise says, I want to launch digital travel products like guided itineraries and city guides. So fun. I love that. Yeah. So, like, even just like a recommendation every day. So fun. I love it. Um, yeah, Meg. I mean, honestly, test it out because I don't know if I'm ADHD, but I'm definitely dyspraxic. And there are a lot of crossovers, and I find it really helpful. Um, uh, okay. Oh yes, Saskia. That is a big one. Saskia said, my biggest fear is no one showing up to my live. I've been pushing it off for that reason mainly. Yeah, I totally get that. I honestly, sometimes I will do a live and just assume that no one's going to come. And I'll do it for the people on the replay. I literally did a live the other day on my Instagram stories, and like 2 people were there live. And I think once you let go of that, once you think like I'm doing this for the people watching on replay, it really takes that pressure off because lots of the time people are busy, I mean, an example, I haven't actually seen how many, I think there's maybe 19 people. I've lost it. I've lost the amount of people who are here. Yeah, 19 people are here, but there's 180 people signed up. That's like, it's lots of people can't come live to things. So yeah, definitely doing it for the replay. It will help. Um, Okay, I'm going to come back to this chat in a second because I've realised I'm literally just getting excited about what people are launching and I'm only on the first phase. So I'll come back to the chat in a minute. Um, okay, so this is what we want to be doing in our build phase. So little daily habit, mention something every day. Now, next we have our engage phase. Now, I would say for your engage phase, Anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks is ideal. Again, sometimes you're going to be in a position where you don't have that much time, but we're working with ideals here. So in your engage phase, you are ramping up that like anticipation a bit more. You're ramping up the engagement around your like specific topic. So if you talk about lots of different things in your business, in your engage phase, this is where you want to be only talking about the thing that you're launching, not necessarily the offer, but only. So to give you an example, when I was doing creative marketing and I had, sometimes I talked about videos, sometimes I talked about Pinterest, sometimes I talked about Instagram, in my engage phase, when I was launching my Pinterest marketing course, I would spend 2 to 4 weeks and I would only talk about Pinterest, not even necessarily talking about the program, but I'm sharing Pinterest tips. I'm sharing, like Pinterest inspiration. I was like, what did I share? I had a sudden complete brain meltdown. Yeah, I was really on message. So when you're in your engage phase, it's about just guiding people even more to like, by the way, I do this. This is what I talk about. This is something I'm doing. And teasing, like you can even tease your offer at this stage. You're not necessarily selling. You're not necessarily like building that like hype for the offer, but you are like really guiding people like something's coming. I'm doing this. It's going to be about this. So yeah, content that's aligned with your offer. This is what we want to be doing in this engage phase. And you could even be sharing a free lead magnet or something like that to build up your anticipation a bit more in your engage phase. So your one boosting activity that I can give you for this phase, which is super like, again, simple, straightforward, run an ongoing content series. So something like, in fact, Danny, I was thinking about this for you when you submitted it to my story box the other day, like because you want to do something for like beginners on social media, something you could do is like social media 101, or like something, just you could do like your topic 101 if you want to bring in people who are like looking for help in that area. And then you could just do a series of reels. You could do even a series of threads. Like having an ongoing series that people can then go back and binge is a really, really nice thing to do. And it also, to be honest, I find this easy because they're as in easier because it helps me stay on task as well, gives my brain somewhere to rest and just be like, okay, I'm talking about, yes, exactly. Amber's just said I did a launch diaries series. That helped so much because I was like, okay, what am I going to post? What am I going to post? I'll do launch diaries. Like it just helps, it brings in like a through line and people can really like get sort of like I guess invested in that way. It doesn't even necessarily have to be behind the scenes, but sharing tips or behind the scenes or something like that. Abby says, I need to start a series. I love watching other people's. Yeah, totally. And they don't have to be complicated either. They can be really, really simple, but it just gives people a bit of something to like catch on to. So that's your engage phase. You are, again, can you see how we're just like building on everything? It's like every phase is just like a little bit more hype. So anticipate. This is where it gets exciting. So I am, if to use me as an example, right now I'm right at the end of my anticipate phase. So I have spent a couple of weeks now talking about Launchbeam. Here we are, we're in Launchbeam. I would say that like a free workshop or webinar or masterclass or a challenge, all that kind of stuff. Those are all examples of things you can do in an anticipate phase. So anticipate does what it says on the tin, is about building anticipation for your offer. So there's loads of different ways to do this. You can have an early bird offer. You could be running a free live event like I'm doing. You don't have to do it that way, by the way. Don't always have to do, if you're a visibility avoider, you might find that your first launch, you might not want to do something that's like super, super live. Although, to be honest, I threw myself in at the deep end and I was fine. You could do something like a series of emails. Basically, what we want to be doing is now we want to be really specifically building hype for your offer. So because obviously you're here now watching this, you are on my email list. So you'll have seen I've been sending emails actually every day for the last couple of weeks all about not just this workshop, but I have been sharing stuff about Luminous launching. I have been almost doing sales content, even though I'm not selling yet. And I think that's sometimes what gets missed because we often do this thing where we're like, something's coming, something's coming. And I used to do that as well, absolutely. But we then kind of miss out on a bit of that like pre-launch anticipation because we keep everything a secret. We're like, oh, must keep it secret. Don't want to say too much because we want to have like this big surprise on launch day. But the thing that is so great about talking about your offer lots in this anticipate phase is that you will have people who on the day are like, right, I'm ready. And I think that's an example. Like it's seen in that example of like, we had to put this workshop off and two people still managed to make their way in. Love you, pals. Like they still managed to know that it was for them and sneak their way in to Luminous launching because I've already talked about it a lot. So I think it's only a good thing to talk about things loads and loads. So as I said, 1 to 2 weeks here, ideal if you can. You're boosting activity for this. Create some hype for your offer with either you could do a free event. I know some people in the chat have already said they've got free events, which is amazing. Or you could have a lead magnet that's slightly more low lift if you're not like into like doing stuff live. There are definitely loads of other ways to do it. You don't have to be showing up loads live. I actually really love teaching live now, even though I could not think of anything worse a few years ago. But yeah, there's so many other ways to do it if it's not your bag. So something like a free challenge, private podcast, workshop, etc. Okay, and finally, we're opening sales. It's the market phase. So how long is this? I would say I've done anything between like 5 days and 14 days. For me, I would say 7 to 10 days is ideal. I think 2 weeks is a long time to be actively selling anything, especially when you've done a pre-launch. I think if you've done your pre-launch well, you don't really have to be selling anything in a launch like this in that sort of intense way for any longer than 7 to 10 days. That's what I would say. And in this phase, this is actually a really, really small tip because obviously in the market phase, there's so much I can tell you. Like there is a lot of ways that you can sell your offer. Like it's a huge topic, but this is actually one of my favorite tips. And I really don't think enough people do this. And that is to use your stories like another email list. Now, what I mean by this is that if you're sending launch emails, which I recommend, then you're hopefully getting all of your great sales messaging into your launch emails. And maybe if you're not sending as many launch emails, maybe you're putting it on the feed as well. Like basically there's going to be somewhere where you're putting all of your like sales content. I really want you to think of your stories as like another hub for this content. So what I do every day on my stories, and you can watch me do this over the next week or so, I will take the key message that I have in my launch email and I'll recycle it in some way and I'll put it on my stories. Now, I know that the hesitation with this is that if you do that, then your story views will plummet. And that is true. Your story views will go down in a launch, just like your reach on Instagram will go down. It's part of it. Like it's part of showing up and being more visible and actively selling. Because obviously when you're selling, there's not as many ways. There are lots of ways to engage your audience and to make it fun and make it creative. And that's a huge part of what I teach. But sometimes it's just not going to be as engaging as like a shareable meme or something. So I would embrace the fact that the people who are watching your stories are likely the people who are like silently lurking and potentially ready to buy. And I think so often we get really, really tied into wanting to keep our story views high, and then we disregard the fact that it's a really powerful place to put our sales messaging. So that's what I would suggest is every day in your launch, putting your like main core message of the day in your stories, and I really believe it will make a massive difference. So freeze mode alert. There is rarely a perfect decision when it comes to your launch dates. So often when we start looking at this framework, it can be a little bit like, oh no, I haven't got enough time, or there's school holidays here, or like I've got this, when should I do it? It can be really, really challenging. I would say though, there's no such thing as a perfect launch date. It's really difficult to set your launch dates sometimes because we get into this like perfectionist mode and we can't get out of it, and then we think like, oh, I don't want to do it then because less people are going to be able to join, or what time should I do it because when can most people join, and you just get stuck there. So what I'd like you, whether you have a launch that you know is coming up, or whether you're just like, actually I don't really know what I'm launching yet, but I kind of want to get a bit of a sort of feel for what it would look like, I'd like you to have a think about what this could look like for you. So firstly, we want to start backwards. So I always, if I'm going to plot in my launch dates, I will always start with the open cart market phase. So I will do that first. And quite often I'll put it in somewhere and then eventually I'll have to move it because I'm like, oh, oops, I've worked backwards and I don't have enough time. So that can sometimes happen. So start with your market phase, plot out your 7 to 10 days, and just put it in your calendar. See what you think, or write it down. See what that looks like. See what that feels like. Then you can move in to your anticipate. So then we're working backwards from your open cart. We're putting your pre-launch anticipate phase in. So we could put ideally 2 weeks in for that. And then once we've got those 2 weeks, we can work backwards again and we can plot in your engage phase. So then you know you've got those 2 weeks where you're going to be talking loads about your topic, you're going to be engaging people, you're going to be really, really getting like interest going. And then 4 weeks from there, work backwards again, and you've got your build phase, which again, that one is definitely the more flexible one because it's basically just the time that you've got in between your launches. So if you run, as an example, I tend to run three sort of like big launches a year, and a big launch I would say is like what I'm doing now, right? This Luminous launching launch. I only do that like 3 times a year. I also do lots of little ones, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But what I'm talking about here is like a sort of a big launch where you're putting this whole Beam framework in place. And once you start doing this, you can start plotting out your year and thinking like, okay, this could fit here, or I maybe don't have enough time to do the whole thing, but I could fit in an engage phase and anticipate phase here. And I've already kind of been doing the build phase, just through my normal content, because sometimes that is the case as well. A lot of you will already have been unknowingly or knowingly building because of the way that you're showing up anyway. Okay, I've added in. I've left it too late at the top because often that is what people tend to think when they see this. They're like, oh, this is so much longer than I really thought that I had time for, or this is not the amount of time I had in my diary to do this launch. But if that is the case, don't worry, because you can always pull out what I call a lightning launch. So if you, for example, have something coming up, let's say mid-March, and you're like, oh, I don't want to put that off, I still want to do it, you can still do a shortened version of this. As long as you're still building hype, then there's always ways to pull out what I call a lightning launch. And we actually talk about that loads in Luminous Launching, about how to like condense this process. And doing a shorter one sometimes is quite a good way of launching something on like a beta test. Like as an example, I ran Luminous Launching last year as a beta program. It's completely different now because I just did it in like 6 live sessions. And I kind of did that as like an invite only, like just to my email list vibe. No worries at all, Jasmine. See you later. Yeah, like there's so many ways of doing things in a smaller way first, to like get that ball rolling. So if you've looked at that Beam framework and you think, oh, for my next launch, maybe not, but in the future, great, then that is totally okay because you can do a lightning launch. So, just to show you what this kind of looks like for me, I've kind of mentioned this already, but this is what my launch for this round of Luminous launching has looked like. So, my build phase, I spent actually, I did kind of end up doing more than 4 weeks because I actually ended up pushing the launch back a little bit. But I had 4 weeks where I was promoting my free 2025 sales and launch trend report. Now, I didn't necessarily do that as part of this launch, but it did act as a really good build phase for me because it added like 300 people to my email list, and it's people who are very well sort of like they're in the right place for Luminous launching because they're obviously looking for sales and launch trends. That was my build phase. My engage phase, I did exactly like I said, my FinChat. I had my 4 weeks of chatting about launching every day online. I made sure that I mentioned launching. I was like, the only rule is I have to say the word launch at least once every day on Threads. So I obviously there were other things that I was doing in that time as well. But that was one of the big things that I was doing in that 4 weeks. And then my anticipate phase has been Launchbeam. So I have been promoting and driving signups to Launchbeam, and I've also been doing a daily email that is basically teasing and like building anticipation for Luminous launching. And then I am literally about to enter my market phase in about 2 minutes because my cart is opening and I am going to be doing my cart open for I should have I think it's is it 10 days? I should have worked that out. I've put 7 to 10 days. I think it's until next Thursday. 8 days. So it really is 7 to 10 days. So that's what Luminous launching has looked like in this framework. So I'm going to go into questions at the end. Obviously, if anyone needs to go, I know I've come up to the hour, but like we're also going to do a Q&A. If you've got like really specific launch questions, like more than happy to go into them. And yeah, I will come back to the chat as well. But as I said, every launch I do follows this beam system, and so does Luminous launching. So Luminous launching, basically, the whole like program is built around this beam system, and we go into each phase in loads of depth and basically tell you exactly what to do in each phase. So no worries, Anna. See you later. Oh, thank you so much for the good luck wishes. So. Luminous launching is open. Also, can we take a moment for Isa's amazing branding? It is so beautiful. Yeah, like just absolutely so excited to welcome people in. This curriculum is like I feel it's a dramatic thing to say, but I feel like it's the best thing I've ever made. Like it is. I'm so excited for people to go through this. So Luminous launching is officially open. I'm going to go on to the sales page in a second and tell you a little bit about it to make sure I don't miss anything. But before I do that, because I know I'll forget otherwise, I'm going to tell you about the early bird bonuses now. So if you sign up in the first 48 hours, so before... Why didn't I work this out? So I've very recently changed this. Friday at 6 p.m, I think I've said. If I've got that wrong, basically 48 hours from now. If you sign up in that time, you are going to get a free one-to-one offer intensive. So that is a 60-minute one-to-one session where we can dive in on your launch-worthy offer. So this is like something that I don't know if I'm going to be able to do again. Basically, it's something that for this round, I was like, I really, really want to add something in for people who are like, I'm not sure if my offer is like completely ready to like launch. I'm not sure on the positioning and they just want to like really make sure they get their offer right. This is what I'm offering for the first 48 hours. So you will automatically get that if you sign up in this first 48-hour window, which is so exciting. I can't wait for that. And then the other exciting thing that I'm doing in this like open cart phase is I'm going to open up the Slack group early, and I am going to do like an exclusive daily like behind the scenes mini trainings. Like basically I'm going to go in there. It's kind of like being in a launch vlog in real time with me. Like I'm gonna share like voice notes and I'm gonna share like little like updates every day on like how the launch is going, what things I'm doing, like insights along the way. It's basically like behind the scenes of my launch brain for that time. And that's just going to be for people who join in that time. I'm then going to like take that out and like it'll turn into the ongoing Slack group, which I'll explain in a minute. So aside from those things, we're officially kicking off the full program, as in like the curriculum drops, and then like there's live calls as well. That kicks off 10th of March, but there's going to be that Slack group happening in the in between, and obviously also you can get one of those offer intensives. They're not necessarily all going to happen in that time, but you can secure it in that first 48 hours. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come on to, I know, Ellie, I literally thought this the other day. I was like, oh, is it a really long time? Then I was like, March is here. Yeah, it is wild, absolutely wild. Okay, I'm going to come on to the sales page if I can find it. Also, I don't know if you can see my dock bar here, but it's sickening. I hate having this much stuff in my dock. Not my normal laptop. Okay, let me come on to here. Can you see my sales page now? Hopefully you can. So Luminous launching, I'll tell you about it. Basically, the key the key like promise, I guess, is Luminous launching is helping online service business owners create a rinse and repeat launch strategy that captivates their audience and delivers their first or next 5-figure launch with ease. So for service providers, it is like very much we are building a launch strategy, not just for one launch, but a launch strategy you can take into your business for every launch you do in the future. So very much rinse and repeat. I've told you my launch story. I'm going to skip over that. So what we're looking for, launch vibes, Luminous launches, Luminous launching, your launches, bringing in more clients, more sales, higher revenue. You want your launches to regularly boost your income. Again, we want that repeatable launch system. We want launches that feel like events that your audience loves to be a part of. That's a huge part of Luminous launching. It's not just launching a launch strategy, it's launching in a creative and fun and immersive way. Like if you've ever watched my launches and thought, I like how Rachel launches, it's the way that I launch. And we're finding a way of fitting that to you as well. You don't have to do it in exactly the same way I do it, but it's like bringing that sort of energy and creativity to it. We also want to be bringing in some of those exciting opportunities. Like I said, it's not just about sales. We're going to be getting the sales, but we're also going to be getting those other exciting opportunities and building your credibility in the industry. But maybe the things that are keeping you stuck right now are that you don't have that repeatable launch strategy. Maybe you don't have any of that pre-launch stuff going on. You are showing up in your content, but it's maybe not converting. So if you're putting all of that effort in, but it's not converting, then you're probably not hitting the right content angles, and we can sort that out. And sometimes maybe you get the sales ick a little bit in the middle of launch and it knocks your confidence in your results. And maybe if you're more in the like creative adventurer camp, then your launches maybe have become a little bit formulaic and you want to like break out of fishing in that same pond energy and add more creativity and impact to your launches. So some of the key like learnings and frameworks we work on in Luminous launching, firstly, your Luminous offer. So as well as that, the one-to-one extra, there is a lesson where you can check your offer against like my light offer framework. So you can check that it's, good to go and launch ready. Then we've obviously got the beam system, which you know all about now. We also have, I think this is the best. I think this is the best part of it, and maybe I'm obviously biased, but like this is my favorite bit. The lights on method is my messaging framework. So it's where you are going to find all the different angles that you can talk about your offer, and you're basically going to make this big like messaging bank that you can use for all of your content. It's like an absolute game changer. Also, your immersive launch world, we've got a whole lesson about like theming and making your launch fun. Like if you've liked my like UFO vibes, again, it doesn't have to look like that, but talking about like immersive selling and immersive marketing, we've got loads of little bits of that in there as well. And also, this is actually, Ellie, you're going to love this as well, because I know your private podcast was also like this. There's a bit of like a choose your own path vibe through the curriculum. So again, as I said, not like all launches are going to look the same. And I don't want people to feel like they've got to throw every strategy at every launch. So there's a point in the program where you can choose what kind of launch you want to do, and then you can follow that path through the program. So you don't have to like spend time learning every single strategy and being overwhelmed, like, oh no, like how am I going to do it? I mean, you can also, I'm not going to limit you to what you watch. You can watch it all, like it's there for you, but it's just basically going to help you like choose the right launch path for you. So what else do I need to tell you? I've told you all of that. Yeah, the curriculum basically, all of that stuff I've just talked about is all in the pre-recorded curriculum. So this is kind of the structure of how I'm doing things this time. Luminous Launching as a program is like it's all there in the curriculum. So wherever you're at with your launch right now, whether you are about to launch in the next month or you're planning for later, you can kind of go in there and like get the stuff that you need at the point that you're at. So because different people launch at different times of the year, this is like such a good way of like meeting you where you're at with that. And then, so this is all here. This is all like the different modules. You can have a look at that in fact, I was going to copy this into the chat. Let's copy that in, shall I? I'll obviously be sending it out later as well. Such a professional. Yeah, these are all the modules. You can have a little bit more of like a deep dive into that later if you like. But it covers all the way through, like setting up your offer to like your post-launch, like analysis, your debrief, like making sure you can make it work for next time. So all of that is there in the curriculum. And that curriculum is what is dropping on the 10th. And then we also have all the other things that make it just, not to toot my own horn, but a delight to be in. So firstly, we've got the curriculum. We also have bi-weekly group coaching calls. So if you are in freeze mode, you are, like I was saying, you're struggling with those decision-making like elements, you're like, oh, I don't know what like free thing to do, or I'm having a launch wobble, basically any of your launch woes, those group coaching calls are there for you to get like really specific and like personalized help from me. So that is going to be a game changer in terms of like actually really implementing it for your business. We also have oh yes, so the day that those group coaching calls will be on, they are every other Monday, and the first one is on the 10th. So that's the timings. At the moment, I've put them at 1 p.m. I'm thinking about having one at 1 p.m. and one at 5 p.m. just to give like people in different countries like more space to join, but I'll double confirm that. But yeah, they're going to be Mondays and like every other Monday. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, really fun. Then we have the Luminous Lounge, which is the Slack group that I mentioned. So after this like first phase where I'm going to be doing all the like behind the scenes stuff, I will be in the Slack group there for you on the go. So between the like live group calls, you've got questions, you want feedback, you want to like also collaborate with other members of the group, or you just want like a pep talk, that the Slack group is there for you. And like there's lots of points in the program where you can get really, really detailed feedback from me, like in an asynchronous way. It doesn't always have to be on those calls. Like you can submit stuff to me and get feedback, like literally like your launch emails, your sales pages, like that, I think is like gold. Like to be able to have feedback like that on the go is so helpful for like staying out of, again, it's just everything is in launching is about staying out of decision paralysis, I think. So you've got that. We also have the Launch Notion portal. So it's, I would say, the only launch dashboard you're ever going to need to organize every aspect of every launch you do in the future. all of the resources and things are all organized in there. There's a content planner, there's your messaging bank, there's like how you're plotting out your beam phases, all the stuff you need for your launch, all your trackers, that is all in there as well. And also with that, we've got custom GPTs on things like messaging or content creation, basically saving all that at those hours and heartache along the way. Phew, I am losing my voice in case you can't hear. So that's pretty much all of the information, I think. If you've got questions, obviously, I am here. I'm going to be chatting about it loads over the next 7 to 10 days in my market like open cart phase. So the price at the moment is $750, including VAT, or you can split it between 3 or 6 payments. So you could pay 125 a month for 6 months if you want to. That includes VAT. Now, a couple of different phases to this, because normally when I've launched programs in the past, the doors have closed and it's been like a closed cohort. This time the doors aren't closing, but we've got a couple of these bonuses. So firstly, first 48 hours is that free one-to-one, the launch intensive. And bearing in mind, like my one-to-ones in that, like intensives like that, normally are like between 500 to 750 anyway. It's almost like you're getting the price of the course again. So that's the first bonus. But then after I should have got this date up as well, shouldn't I? After next Thursday, the price is going up significantly. So this 750 is the introductory price. So that's sort of like my end of launch, basically, to give you like the behind the scenes. My end of launch is going to be the price going up. So that is that. I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to come back to the chat and see if anyone has any questions. Thank you so much for staying until the end. So lovely having you here. Let me know if you have any questions. Also, like again, about Luminous launching or about like your launch. Happy to stay on for a little bit and answer some questions. I'm going to have a sip of water in the meantime because I need it. Let's see if I missed any chats here. No worries at all, Amber. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Okay. Oh, yes, Saskia, this is a great question. Would your launch setup work with just an email list and podcast, or do you lean heavily on social media? So I personally use social media in my launches. An email list, I think, is like your most crucial bit. So even if you don't have, obviously, you've already said you've got an email list, but for other people, if you don't have an email list, you're totally fine to join, but I will be supporting you in joining one, basically, in making one. So I would say an email list is really crucial. But we obviously need a way to grow your email list as well. So that's the only reason why social media is included, because that's the way that I grow my email list. But as long as you've got a way of growing your email list, maybe that is through your podcast. But again, I know podcasts sometimes are like, they're often not necessarily your top of funnel places either. But if you are growing your email list actively with, whatever you're growing it with, then that's totally fine. But yeah, emails, I would say, like emails for me, it's not like the whole program isn't about emails, but emails for me have always been my highest converter, which I think sometimes I mentioned this to someone before and they were quite surprised because they were like, oh, but you do so many like videos and things, and that's really helpful as well. But emails for me, like have been a game changer. Oh, Danny, you've started an email list. Amazing. Honestly, like 10 subscribers is better than nothing. And the other thing that's so good about launching, right, is I think lots of people don't realize or don't really think about the fact that launching is one of the best ways to grow your email list. Like I started my first launch, I had like 100 people on my email list. And obviously that's not nothing, but to then get 53 people into a program, like I think my email list grew by like 400 people in that launch phase. So I think that's a sort of common kind of like misconception is that it's like, oh, I need like a certain number on my email list, or I need a certain number of followers. But like launching is a way of growing those numbers. So again, you can keep like compounding your results. Um, so yeah, I think if you've got an email list, then that's an amazing start. Um, Amazing. Okay. Any other questions at all? I'm gonna just scroll up and see if I missed any comments. Uh, oh yeah. Abby said I need to turn my content around to include more actual books instead of bookish lols. I love that. Um, yeah, Jasmine also said I love a good live. Hardly anyone shows, but it's the replay that's important, takes the pressure out of it. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, Yes, exactly, Abby. So, yeah, Abby, if by the way, pals, if you haven't seen Abby's Kickstarter, please go and see it. Please go and back it. We need Abby to open her bookshop. So, Abby's doing a Kickstarter at the moment for a fantasy bookshop, which is the most fun thing ever. And the way that you've been doing that launch is sensational. So yeah, go and have a look. But like you said, the journey itself has brought thousands of followers and mailing list signups. And that is exactly what I'm talking about with launching being the thing that grows your business as well as the thing that gets you sales. And I think I said this in an email the other day. If I'd waited until I had more followers and more people on my email list before I started launching, I would not be launching now because all of the growth that I've had in that time has come from launching. So it's one of those things where we think we have to wait for one thing to be in place, and actually if you wait for that thing to be in place, then you're missing out on the thing that's putting it in place, if that makes sense. Um, yeah, the process itself brings the people, exactly. And you're welcome. Yes, everyone go and check out the Kickstarter. Okay, I'm aware of time, so thank you so much for joining me and for staying until the end, and also for bearing with me with the tech issues. I hope that like even seeing those tech issues and like seeing that kind of thing happen like shows that things can happen in a launch, like the things that you're scared of happening sometimes can happen, but it's really not the end of the world. Like I've absolutely loved this has been so fun, and earlier in the day it was a bit stressful, but now it's totally fine, and I'm so excited now that I'm opening up the doors and that people are joining, and I've had this lovely time with you all. So thank you so much. No worries at all, Danny. See you later. I'm gonna love you and leave you. So